everybody. Welcome back to this month's episode of Cronin's Corner. I am so privileged to be joined today by Dr. Danette from Fitchburg State University, and we're going to have an exciting conversation about Dr. Day's background, how she came to Fitchburg, her work with Abolitionist Park, which is really an incredible legacy for the city. I think it, especially in light of the social justice movement that has been so profound in so many ways across our country over the past few years, and also talk about broadly creating opportunity for young people here in North Central Massachusetts. So Dr. Day, thank you so much for agreeing to come on Cronin's Corner.
Well, thank you for having me, Senator. I'm so excited to be here today. So
absolutely. And you're an FATV veteran, right? I mean, you've been here at FATV Studios.
I have.
So
yes.
That's good.
My background is in communications media, so yes, I find that any type of work you can do to inform, entertain, and persuade our community, and right here at Local Access is amazing.
And it's such an asset for the community too,
yes.
And it helps us reach people who aren't on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Yeah. And it's a great medium and a great asset for the city of Fitchburg. So to just get started, can you talk about your career in education and how you came to teach at Fitchburg State?
Yes. So my family is originally from Shirley, and I now live in Fitchburg. And as you stated, I have had the opportunity to be at Fitchburg State University. This is my 8th year there. My background is education. First, I said that I did study television production, and then I realized that much of what was happening in front of the camera I could do in front of a classroom. Yep. So I transitioned and used the same skills that I had acquired to be on television to be a teacher. And you have to go back and earn some degrees, and I did all of that. And I'm the product of public, private schools, and realized that being a teacher is a lot of work. It's a lifelong dedication to learning. And I went from being in the classroom as an English teacher and civics teacher, and then did some work that was at Wachusett Regional High School, and went to Bancroft School as a dean of students. Mm-hmm. Ended up at Westford Academy as a dean of students, and then eventually I realized I was moving too far away from students, and decided at that point to go back to school and earn my doctorate, and that was in my late 40s, so it's never too late.
Lifelong learning.
Yeah,
right?
Lifelong learning. I'm a
Yep.
real example of that. It's never too late to continue to say that you have 20, 30 years that you want to give back in some way, and to make that time and dedicate yourself to really finding out what it would take. So earned my doctorate degree from UMass Amherst. At that point, I was lucky enough to work at in my backyard and work at Fitchburg State. So really excited.
Do you mind? Can I ask, how did your family end up in Shirley?
So I'm a real product of a real diverse, multi-ethnic family. Mm-hmm. And my father was in the military. Yeah. As many people know, it was Fort Devens at the time that brought a lot of families who were ethnically diverse to this, to this community. And my mom is German and Italian, and I was born in Germany, and I was like 5 when we came back for the last time, and my dad retired at Devens. So that's how we made it to New England.
And that's the same story as my family.
Really?
My grandfather, Joe, who lives at the Gables now in Fitchburg, grew up in Jamaica Plain in Boston, was
okay.
The son of Irish immigrants, was drafted in the Korean War, mm-hmm. served for probably 4 or 5 years, and then his last station was Fort Devens, and that was it. We haven't left. So everybody's been stuck with the Cronin since. But I had the opportunity to go to Devens earlier this week too, and I remember growing up really for the past 20 years. Everybody said the Army leaving Devens is the worst thing that ever happened in North Central. And as somebody who I was in the Army for 5.5 years, I really have an appreciation for the impact that bases have on communities and regions, just
Absolutely.
in terms of economic impact and mm-hmm. activity, and exposing people from Germany and bringing them to North Central Mass. And I think what's really changed in the past 5 or 10 years is Devens has really been recreated as an economic engine for the area in a very exciting way. The life sciences, the biomanufacturing that's happening at Devens is really exciting, and it's once again the economic engine. But it's taken a while for that.
Someone was able to reimagine, just like we're working to reimagine Fitchburg. They were able to reimagine that space that, once they decided who owned what, Shirley, Air, Harvard, and they divvied it up, but then they were like, okay, but we need some space to call this space Devens, and the mass development was able to work with those communities to say, let's do this. And I go through there often, and I feel the same thing. I mean, I still swim at Mirror Lake. It was a lake that I lifeguarded at when I was young, and there's a lot of really wonderful things that are happening in that area.
And
I think we have somebody working, aren't they? I think it's a lettuce company that I know we buy our lettuce from that is in that area. It amazes me what they're doing.
What they can do. The other huge investment that's happening at Devens right now is a fusion energy company from MIT.
I hadn't heard of that.
So when you talk about 21st century jobs, I mean, cutting edge research and industries are here in north central Massachusetts, and means jobs, right?
Exactly.
And it means families are coming here and joining our communities, and so certainly a remarkable rebirth. But it's great that we are both really sitting here in front of each other because of Fort Devens today,
and it's
too.
interesting you're talking about job creation, and we need young people then who are ready to fill those jobs. And the work that I'm involved in at Fitchburg in the schools, but also Fitchburg State University, is really to work collaboratively from early childhood to middle school to high school, and then to prepare students whether or not they want to go to higher education. It's their choice, but to provide them a sense of their capacity to do that and to do well, and to have this self-agency and efficacy to let them know that they can make it in higher education classrooms. And there are some really unique programs that are happening in the state that I'm beginning to become involved in. One, we're working with middle schoolers at the university, and it's a Future Educators Academy. And that's just to look at specifically having young people see themselves as teachers, right? Because we have a teacher shortage, we know that. We have a shortage in so many areas, but in teaching specifically. And even more importantly, teachers of color are not in our area, right?
So I was at a community meeting last night where we talked about bills in front of the legislature right now. But the problem was framed in this context, and it's also conversations I've had with Superintendent Jokula reflect this. But more than half, the number I saw last night was 78% of students in Fitchburg Public Schools are students of color, and about 4 or 5% of the faculty and teachers are teachers of color.
Exactly.
And so how do we close that gap so there's more representation in our faculty?
And we know the importance of all of that.
And providing diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, and we know the importance of having students who are in the classroom, who are diverse, minoritized students, see themselves in the people who teach them, right? And also students of the dominant culture see people who are different than them teaching them, right? We know the benefits. So some of the work is to begin to teach students younger that this is an opportunity. So teaching isn't the only opportunity. So there's another initiative, and it's the Early College Initiative. And we were talking about the work, all types of opportunities economically that even at Devens and Mass Development are producing. So the idea is to go into the high schools. There's a partnership with Gardner, Fitchburg, Leominster. I think Air and Shirley right now might be working on that.
We're expanding it to Air and Shirley.
Yeah, we're expanding it. So the idea is to go into the high school and have students early on, as freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, at least take one course at the university. Get credit for that course, which then they don't have to pay for it. They just have to pass it, learn, obviously, grow. And then when they get to the university, if they choose to go into higher education, they will have credits. So if they have a bad semester, it doesn't stop them and prevent them from, graduating in that 4-year period. sometimes they can get out earlier. And it's a cost-saving mechanism, right? And then also it helps them to be successful and see themselves as being able to do this work.
When you think of how prohibitive the cost of going and getting a college education is right now.
I can't imagine.
It is, if you do this wrong and you don't have the opportunity, there are kids who saddle themselves at 22 with more than $200,000 worth of student loan debt. And how do you crawl back and get out of that burden? And I don't know, right?
No.
But the best solution I have is these early college programs. I know we had specifically a student at Gardner High School this year who was a senior at Gardner, and the day before she got her high school diploma, she received her associate's degree. And so she graduated with 2 years of college at no expense to her and her family.
Yeah.
So whether you cut that $200,000 in half, or you go on to UMass, or you continue your education at Mount Wachusett Community College, these are such good investments for the legislature. And
I agree.
We expanded the early college line item by more than $5 million this year. And I just think there's so much opportunity for that local coordination between Mount Wachusett, expanding to Air Shirley,
the high school,
and the Leanne Scales, who works in Mount Wachusett Community College. She's an incredible.
I know Leanne.
She is incredible.
I do.
She's
Yes.
great.
Agreed.
But she always says, and this is the most powerful argument I think to sustain these programs. If we get a first-generation kid in high school in an early college program, their chances of, one, matriculating, and then two, getting a degree from a college more than doubles.
Yes.
Right? Because they're exposed to something. They look
Absolutely.
around, they see their classmates, they see their professors, they're on a college campus, and they say, we can do this.
Right.
So very, very exciting.
It is exciting. So thank you for your work on those initiatives and those the legislative support that you're committed to, and you're seeing it. It's happening. It's working, and we have to continue it. So,
absolutely.
So I really loved this work, and the first year experience work also is another avenue to support not only students who want to be educators, not merely students who are going to support our local economy, right? But also students who are coming from a lot of areas and other states and even ones that transfer, but they might not see themselves being prepared, and they haven't had any of those other initiatives we're talking about in their community. Maybe they didn't have the AP opportunities, maybe they didn't have dual enrollment, and they come onto our campus and they want to be there, and they still don't understand habits of mind and some of the advocacy work that they have to do for themselves. They might not know how to approach a professor. So we do this first year experience course that gives them a sense of all the resources that are offered at the university, connecting them to opportunities just to get to know who they are at their age of development, their stage of development. So that is another space where we're trying to build students so that they can matriculate, they can persist, and they feel a sense of belonging, to the university.
And that must be the time to catch kids too, right? Because when they're leaving high school, they're leaving their nest. They've lost all the social support that they've had, whether it's housing or dinner at the end of the day. Exactly, and they're out of the family structure really for the first time. How many kids are involved in that program?
Every student that comes into the university as freshmen now take the first year experience course.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and we even now, I think we're at the point now where even transfer students are in that course.
So,
and we talk about other skills too, not just their own, like getting to know who they are.
Right.
But also, we're even looking at doing a reading program to really support their literacy, information literacy. The idea that libraries and the resources of information literacy is another aspect of that course. There's a lot of skill development too around that.
I guess at the end of the day, you're trying to identify the competencies that they show up and maybe don't have at the level that they need to succeed at Fitchburg State, and trying to get them there as quick as they can so they can go on and be successful.
And offices that sometimes students don't. They're in a dorm.
Yeah,
they're in a dorm, and or they find the places they like, they feel comfortable, but they don't realize that there's resources. There's counseling resources, there's academic support, there are tutoring resources for students. So we also introduce them to those resources.
So we've kind of alluded a lot to the different partnerships that you at the university and you are involved in personally with our community colleges, our high schools. Mm-hmm. One of the projects that I know you have really led on and really spurred the partnership between the university and the city is Abolitionist Park.
Yeah.
That is an incredible legacy for the city of Fitchburg. Can you talk about how that project started?
Well, it's a good segue to talk about first year experience, because that's really, it began by a colleague's dream. David Thibault Munoz is a colleague of mine at Mount Wachusett Community College, and he teaches a first year experience course and has been. Oftentimes, initiatives that come out of the community colleges, Fitchburg State takes a little while to kind of look, and I think this happens a lot. Community colleges are very, very innovative sometimes, and it takes a while for us to recognize that they have some good ideas.
And they can shift rapidly to the needs of the job market or the needs of the community. And
So they had a first year experience course. He was working with students, and he put out a Facebook call 2017, summer of 2017. We're cleaning up a space in Fitchburg. Come one, come all. And I knew he was doing a first year experience course, and I was about to take that on at Fitchburg State. So I wanted to see what he was doing. And also, the idea of helping students and getting involved with them to clean up a lot in Fitchburg, which was right around the corner to where I live and work, did it. And it was the best thing I've ever done. So 2017, we cleaned a lot. Then we cleaned another lot after that, because that one was owned by HUD and it wasn't something that we could access easily. Cleaned another lot. City said someone else was interested in that. We once again pivoted, and in that process, the university came up with a space that they owned on Snow Street, a piece of property. And we went at developing that piece of property for the opportunity to honor the work of abolitionism and people who dedicated their lives, and allies of all types of people in Fitchburg, who dedicated their lives to the fact that humans need to be free, humans need to have independence and self-worth and dignity, and the institution of slavery needed to be eradicated. And so that's what we've done, and it's real now.
And how did this project lead to a rediscovery for you or students and David of Fitchburg's leadership role in the abolition movement, in the Underground Railroad?
So it was, I think, for everybody that's a part of our board, and our board, we're called the Friends of the Abolitionist Park, and we're all volunteers. And everybody on that board, I think, has a different story about how it's impacted them personally and why they do this work. For somebody like me, I'm an educator, and I'm always trying to help people to understand that, we come to this planet, we have some work we're called to do. We don't sometimes know exactly what it is. But the idea, Marian Wright Edelman says this: service is the very purpose of life. It is the rent we pay for living on the planet. And I really believe that. I believe we should be in service of other people. So to learn that, and I also know that you can't do it by yourself. Like, you really have to collaborate.
You need to build a team of teams.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
You can go fast by yourself, but you can't go far. So the idea that if you want to go far, you really need people around you to support you and to work with you. So for students and the work that I'm doing, I want them to know that whatever they're passionate about, like to find what it is, to work with people, and to believe and dream and it can get done. And to know that for me as a woman of color, a black woman in America, knowing how hard I've had to work, and then being in a community sometimes that's dominantly, it's a white dominant culture. Sometimes it's hard to think that even in the past, people here were doing good work to make sure all humanity and everybody can be authentically who they are, and to learn that that was the history of Fitchburg. I grew up in Shirley, and the world was in my backyard all the time. So I never questioned that. When I was young, there were all walks of people, doing good things together. I went to a high school that was totally
right?
working
That's
together.
The thing about the Army. Like you don't have a choice.
Right.
Like so many diverse backgrounds, and you're all rowing in the same direction.
Right. So then when I moved to Fitchburg, I'm like, wow, okay, so the history is really important to share. And once I learned about it, I thought we need to highlight it. Now, I don't know the depth of all of the history, but I do know that there were people who had power and they decided to share it.
Yeah.
And in some ways, they actually even, they might have brought some harm to their families, but it didn't matter. They decided that this was important. And the history is long. I mean, we're still uncovering it. We have stories of people who, the Crockers and the Snows and others who came and made sure that people who, when the Fugitive Slave Act was enacted, slaves were taken from Boston, they were brought here on the Underground Railroad, they stayed in homes. We now can decide where the homes were because there's a historical trail. There was a bell that was purchased, didn't ring until it was in the Trinitarian Church, didn't ring until slavery was eradicated. So we now have some pieces and we're putting those together.
So the history is remarkable.
It is remarkable.
One of the most powerful days that I've had serving in the state senate was Juneteenth. And the park was unfinished, but there was an incredible ceremony there. Yeah. Can you talk about how the opening of the park that day and the first official federal designated Juneteenth kind of came to a head at the same time, and what that day meant to you?
Well, it was one of my proudest moments also, I agree. It's nice to be a professor, it's nice to do the work of educating the next generation and helping them to, to dream and have dreams and support their dreams. I enjoy every day that I'm in front of a classroom, but to be a part of a community event like that and to have been someone who literally dug holes, worked alongside realtors who helped put up, a fence together and, amended the
blocking and tackling.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Work we did to get this park built, and it's still being built. We're in phase 3 right now, but to collaborate and to know how many people dedicate their time without any rewards other than the idea that this is important to do. It's not monetary, it's about a dream and making it come to reality. So that day was really a proud day, proud moment to see all the friends and families that supported it at this ceremony, to see dignitaries, state legislators, city councilors, the mayor,
you name it.
Everybody was there, it seemed. And I felt like, wow, they see this as important too. And sometimes when your head is down and literally you're digging a hole, you think, and it's, the middle of June and it's hot and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, didn't my ancestors try to stop having to do this type of work, this manual labor, and here I'm doing it again? But the joy after, the idea that that's what it takes.
And to me, what was profound about that moment and that day was the realization that we're going to be back in 365 days. There are two things that aren't going to blow away, and that's your legacy, Abolitionist Park, and Juneteenth. And that, to me, this is the right community space. And to me, it was like, this is the first annual event. Block off your calendar next year. Next year,
and we're going to do the ribbon cutting this Juneteenth.
And what would you like to see the park become for the community moving forward?
Well, first thing, I just have to read off this list of people because it's not just me. And so I want people to know that the Friends of the Abolitionist Park made this happen. And, the Friends board is David Thibault Munoz, Simone Blake, Sam Squalia, who's a city councilor, Lanaya Thomas, Edwin Encarcion, Jenna Boss, Christina Sanborn, Jesse Olson, Ruby Hall, Tundi Alderondo, Tristan Sosi, Bernie Schultz, who is also a city councilor, and Julianne Gonzalez. And so these are the people who are on the board. But there are so many more people behind the scenes. I mean, firefighters, policemen, realtors, foundations that supported us, the city block grants, the community foundation has supported us. Mm-hmm. The systems and the peoples that have had this happen. So what I'd like to continue to see is more people continue to get involved. Mm-hmm. because there's room for more people. And I'd really like the history, we need to keep working on the history. We have committees, so if people want to get involved, like there's committees. We have a marketing committee, historical accuracy committee, fundraising committee, and park and vision development committee. So first thing is, we need more hands and more ideas to continue this. I really want it to be a space where.
And who do they contact? We'll get this We'll get this up.
Well, the first thing is you can contact anybody that's a part of the Friends board, but go to www.abolitionistpark.org, and that gives you all the information you want to know. So abolitionistpark.org, and we also have a Facebook page, Friends of the Abolitionist Park. That's our Facebook site.
Gotcha.
So that information, everything you need to know. If it's David you can contact me, you can contact anybody on the board. But that's all on abolitionistpark.org. You could donate. Donations are always wonderful. We always like money, but the idea to get involved, to really have your ideas, and to come together to support the work that we're trying to do. So one of the things is to continue to unearth the rich history.
Yeah.
Right? And then make that known. So we are working to do an augmented reality board. It's a display panel. So when people come to the park, and I'm going to bring my students, so when people come to the park, they'll be able to hear the history, see it come to life via an augmented reality.
You should contact your legislature for an earmark or something. I think I got Mike Kushmerik's number on me somewhere. Yeah.
All right, we will. We're on that. But that's one of the things that we know. Then we can be educating the greater populace. And the idea is that there's a rich history of African American history, which is American history, that is in Concord, it's in Boston, and to bring it out to Central Mass and then reconnect it to Boston and Concord and have that trail. There's a trail within Fitchburg, but connected to other places, Leominster, connected to Air, because the bell that I talked about is in the Air Federated Church's bell tower.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, so there's a lot that can be done, and we just need more people to support it.
And to close, you strike me as a person who doesn't do well staying still or not being involved.
Yes, I like to be involved. You're right. But there's only so much energy
there's a lot to do.
At my age you have, right?
That's
Because
good.
you get a little older and you're like, okay, I need to conserve a little energy.
What other initiatives in the area are you most excited about?
Well, education is my passion.
Yeah.
I think to empower people to think critically, to be citizens of the world, their community, and then to act in ways that are appropriate. And so that work is really still what I want to be involved in. And the Abolitionist Park allows me to do all of those things, to still be in education,
right,
and also be civically engaged. I still think that still being a part of working to, elect people like you and to support your vision and what you're doing, just to continue to be educated, I'll do that work. I was a part of the Mass Voters Table meeting the other night. There are people who don't want us to be as aware and voting, and so I'm going to do those types of things.
Absolutely.
Continue to work to make sure people have access to the vote. Women's rights, that's another area that women's reproductive rights, I'm very concerned about that. Healthcare, all of that.
Well, Dr. Day, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. I had a lot of fun. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. Early college, Abolitionist Park, all these partnerships that you were leading on in the community. So thanks for all your service and everything you're doing. And
thank you for your work.
Absolutely. And I hope you'll come back on the show sometime.
I will.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That's our show for this month. And we will see you in March for the next episode of Cronin's Corner. Take care.
Bye, all.